So over the last couple of days, really months, we've seen a strange sort of warping in the center of politics as Democrats and the media kind of cozy up to their old Republican foes, starting with House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi.
It's interesting because now the current speaker, who was a candidate for vice president, for whom hundreds of millions of dollars was spent to promote him and Mitt Romney. Wouldn't it be nice if he were president of the United States? George Bush. Anyway.
Wow. Former President Bush also finding some support from the previously very critical media against him following his speech on divisions in this country, which some have compared to a campaign speech from President Obama. Drudge Report going so far as to put this rendition of an Obama-Bush combo on their website this morning. Here now on this weird state of politics, Karl Rove served as Deputy Chief of Staff under President George W. Bush and is a Fox News contributor. So, Karl, good evening to you. What do you make of this?
Evening. Well, first of all, Nancy Pelosi didn't really mean it when she said that she wanted Mitt Romney or George Bush to be president. She really didn't mean it. So I think all of your viewers can be confident in that. I'm sure of it. Look, I thought this is interesting how President Bush spoke in New York at a conference. And his speech, his concerns were not the concerns of the last 9 months. They were of a longer term. He's worried about the challenges to Western-style democracy, and he talked very specifically about 4 threats. He was worried about external attacks on democracy, both here and abroad. He talked about the support in America that has been diminished over the decades for America's role in the world on behalf of freedom and free markets. He talked about a concern about how well we're doing in passing the ideals of Americanism from generation to generation, worried about how well we're doing that with young people. And finally, he talked about the declining trust in institutions, not only here but abroad. He's talking about threats to Western-style democracy. And yet the press immediately jumped up and turned it into an attack on Donald Trump.
Well, he talked about cruelty and bigotry and,
right.
You know, some of these flash words that sometimes have been suggested in discussions and criticisms of President Trump.
Sure. But when he talked about, for example, the trust in our institutions, he talked about, you know, we need to urgently attend to the problems of declining trust. Our democracy needs a media that is transparent, accurate, and fair. Our democracy needs religious institutions that demonstrate integrity and champion civil discourse. We need institutions of higher education that are examples of truth and free expression. So, I would encourage people to read the speech. I think it's a terrific...
Well, you know the man, and you've spent a lot of time with him, and you listen to his words, and your takeaway is credible and important. You know, in terms of the sort of rosier reaction to President George W. Bush by some in the media who really denigrated him so deeply. What do you make of that transition?
Well, look, I think that's partially a reaction to the fact that they just hate Trump and they have to find a way to hate Trump even more. And that by saying I like Bush, that makes him feel better. But look, I think there's also something. During the course of the previous administration, I had a number of people say to me, even people who served in the Obama administration, to say, you know what, I've gained a greater respect for the guy you worked for, because they realize how difficult these challenges are that the world faces. And his record is looking better and better as people have a chance to examine it, not up close in the moment, but through the lens of history.
Yeah. Well, President Bush always said that when he just wanted to be able to feel good and comfortable when he looked in the mirror, and he said he could do that. And he said that history would be the ultimate judge of his presidency, it turns out to be the case.
He also said history will get it right and we'll both be dead. Whenever I was getting upset about a New York Times editorial
history will get it right. So, all right, Karl, great to see you. Thank you very much.
Great to see you, Martha.
You too.